Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Diamond Crystal, the Gallivanting Grandma, and I want to thank you for joining my channel. If you don't know, I am a global nomad and five-star international house sitter. I am pleased to bring on a regular basis some of the incredible people that I meet out here in these international streets. I talk to a lot of people and I try to bring them to the stage so that they can share some pertinent information, some encouragement and inspiration with you because they're just incredible. And tonight I have an absolutely incredible sister who I want to bring to the stage tonight. Her name is Celeste. And with no further ado, I am going to bring Celeste forward. Hey,
Hi,
Celeste.
Diamond. Hi,
How
Diamond. How
are
you?
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy it's the weekend.
Hey, here's to Friday.
Yes,
Wait,
yes.
let me get my glass of wine because I'm making sure I make a toast to my new sponsor, wherever they may be, my wine sponsor. So cheers to the weekend.
Cheers. I'm doing chai.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. All right, so where in the world are you, first of all?
So I live in the DC suburbs. I'm outside Washington, DC. I've been here a while.
Okay.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah. So we connected on a couple of different areas.
Mhm.
But before we get into any of the background, I just want you to take a minute and introduce yourself. Who's Celeste?
Okay. Well, let's see. Who am I? So I am, let's see, I'm a Gen Xer.
Okay.
I am a contract coach. So I run a YouTube channel called Reset with Celeste,
All
and
right.
I specialize in helping specifically Black women who work in marketing, just because that's my field and where I have the most expertise, helping them transition out of a full time job into a contract role that might be less stressful, probably will be less stressful and less toxic, but that also can help them make more money in less time so
Hmm.
that they can experience time freedom, travel, take sabbaticals, and be, out here in these international streets with you.
Oh
So,
my God.
yeah.
Girl, you said a mouthful, and that's why I knew I needed to bring you on because you know the assignment. You understand the assignment, right?
Hmm.
Time freedom, flexibility, location freedom.
Yeah.
It's you preaching to the choir. You know that, right?
I know. I know.
Yep. And I spent quite a bit of time in the metropolitan DC area, so I know it real well. So you're in my stomping grounds.
Yep.
Um, I am posted up in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
This is my last week here. It's been a wonderful 3.5 weeks. Have my granddaughter. I got my granddaughter with me still, and so
Mhm.
that's the flexibility of house sitting. And we are sisters who sit.
That's right. That's right. That's how we first connected. I
That's
yeah, I joined I joined the Facebook group, which I found, kind of as a spinoff to the Exodus Facebook community.
right.
Um, I had watched some of Stephanie Perry's videos and materials on house sitting, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it. And I did a local house sit here in DC,
Right.
just to kind of get my first review.
Yep.
But then, I turned to the community, to your Facebook community, because I was like, okay, I have questions and I want to hear from, people who are farther ahead than me, who can kind of shortcut this journey
Yep.
for me.
Yep. Yep.
And then I had to make a big leap from like the local sit to the non-local sit. And that's
Yeah.
when I called you for some coaching, because I was like,
Yes.
I want to go to LA and I cannot figure this out.
Right. Right. And so, but the end result is that you tried house sitting, you saw that it was something that would be beneficial to you, and when you wanted to expand your horizons, you weren't afraid to ask for a little bit of assistance. So first from the community, and then coaching with me. And so I love receipts.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. So I was in LA a month, and I think I
Okay.
paid for 2 nights. I paid for one night at a hotel. That was the first night when I got there.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be there and make sure the homeowner knew I was there, whatever.
Right, right.
And then I paid for 2 nights at an Airbnb, but one of those was some of that I got reimbursed for and the only reason I was at an Airbnb at all is because one of the house sits canceled.
Okay.
But then I found a replacement house sit with my friend, and
There you
it
go.
all worked out. So
There
yeah,
you go.
4 weeks in LA, paid for 2 nights.
Come on, that's what you call winning. I'm gonna say cheers to that. Cheers
Yes.
to winning.
Cheers. That was nice.
Absolutely.
And
Okay,
so I was like, I want to do this again. Once I
you
experienced it, I was like, what?
it's
have I been doing
almost
with my
like
life?
it's almost like it becomes addicting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can save so much money and I can meet my travel goals through house sitting and on any level that you want, domestically, internationally. I mean, it's just a win-win situation. I'm an advocate, and I'm so glad we almost in a full circle moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was almost a year ago,
Yep.
that you did counseling. So,
Yep. And I'm coming back when I get ready for my international house sit because
come on, girl.
I need
I
some help.
got you.
I need some strategy.
I got you. Strategy is the key. And that's what I stress with all my clients. If you don't have a strategy, it's not going to work for you. You can't be out here all willy-nilly up in these international streets, right?
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, that ain't what we're here to talk about. That's the backstory.
Backstory. That's our origin story.
That's the origin story. We're here to talk about when I discovered you on your new YouTube channel. Tell us what it is again, your YouTube?
It's called Reset with Celeste.
Okay. Reset with Celeste, and I'm going to drop that in the comments.
Yeah, it's a couple months old now, about 3 months old. My little baby.
Yes.
But yeah, so I talk about contracting, and then I think the first question a lot of people have is like, well, how does the money work, right?
Let's talk about the money, girl. We're here tonight to talk about the money because we talked about how you saved money a month in LA, but even if you saved money, you still gotta have money. So let's talk about money.
Yeah, so I have kind of always known that I didn't really believe in the traditional, like, just work 50 years and then retire and then you get to live.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I knew I didn't believe in that, I didn't really know what to do instead.
Right.
And I always read financial books. I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I kind of take pieces from here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Some from the FIRE movement. Like I learned a lot from that.
Yes.
But even that is great.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I found that I was already in my early 40s, and that's definitely geared toward like those people want to retire at 40. And here I am discovering it at 40,
Dude, man, if I had stumbled upon that at 30, I would. But everything for everybody, and timing is everything. So go ahead.
So I was thinking about this last night. I was like, well, when did I like really get radicalized about like how like traditional financial advice is like a scam? And I remember when it was.
Okay.
So there was this podcast called The Investing Tutor. This is back in 2019.
Okay.
The host name is Dr. Hans Boateng, and I think he does like Bitcoin and stuff now. But like he's an African immigrant in America, so he's bringing that perspective to it.
Gotcha.
And he was like, all these people who are telling you to pay off your debt first, that messaging is coming from banks because they want you to give them their money and not pay yourself first.
Okay, wait, I'm listening. What?
I was like, wait, what? He was like, there's a reason that we're all programmed to fear debt and feel like we got to pay it off and it's terrible. And he's like, yeah, they program poor and middle class people to be afraid of debt so that your first instinct is you get paid and you automatically turn around and pay somebody because you don't want to owe somebody. When the first thought really should be, let me invest in myself. And then, with what's left over, I'll do some other stuff. And I was like, you know what? I think he's right.
So let's stop there for a second. Because the billionaires of the world, the millionaires of the world understand that debt is a tool,
Right.
right?
That's what he said. Yep. He said the same
And
thing.
so they use that tool to get more or advance their businesses, where we are, like you said, petrified of debt because of the message. Now, I know you're not telling people not to pay your debt off,
No.
or not to keep your, yourself in good standing, but at the end of the day, it's not something that you should fear. It's a tool that can be used very effectively to meet your ends. And is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I, the way I talk about like financial philosophy. I
Yeah.
don't consider myself a financial expert, but I
Okay.
have a lot of
Okay.
strong feelings about like,
Disclaimer. Disclaimer. Yeah.
yeah, but I have a lot of strong feelings about like how we think about and talk about money.
Yes.
And so another thing that he said, and I'm gonna come back to what you just said in a minute. Another thing he said was that that pay off your debt first
Mm-hmm.
advice. A lot of the like Dave Ramsey advice.
Yes.
Um, he's like it's especially dangerous for Black people because we have so much more debt than
Mm-hmm.
others. So if you spend all your time, if you are programmed to pay off that debt first, you're going to
Uh-huh.
spend longer paying
Mm-hmm.
off the debt, which means you put off the investing longer, which means
Yes.
you just are further behind the eight ball. And I
Right.
was like, wow, okay.
So there are different schools of thought and different philosophies behind how you can achieve your financial goals. There's not a cookie cutter type of answer, right? Fire is definitely a methodology.
It's one. Yep.
It's one.
And it
And
worked
the
for a
Dave
certain type
Ramsey
of
is
person.
another,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But as my mom used to say in her wisdom, rest in heaven, Ma, is you take the best and you leave the rest.
Hmm.
Like I said earlier, everything ain't for everybody. So, you gotta find something that uniquely works for you.
Hmm.
And what I heard on your latest YouTube, I think it's one of your latest ones, was, how do you start to make these moves if you don't have the huge asset that everyone is supposed to have as far as the American pie, right? That slice.
Yes.
What if you don't have that house? What if you don't have real estate as a foundational start? What if you don't have a 401k?
Hmm.
As a contractor, you may or may not. So go ahead, speak to that, because that's what got my attention for real. Like, whoa, go
Okay.
ahead.
So, because as I said, I discovered fire in my early 40s, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can take what I can take from that,
Hmm.
but I may not get the full effect of it because I'm starting so late. And that strategy is not really for me. I can
Yeah.
use pieces of it, but it's not really for me
Yeah.
where I am now. Um, and I told you about the investing tutor making me
Hmm.
sort of question the traditional financial advice.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, well, what else are they telling us that's not
What
that,
other
it's
flavor of Kool-Aid do they have out there?
yeah. And then I was like, this whole retire, like, I said it earlier, work 50 years until you retire,
Ah,
is a good way to just spend your whole life working and giving, and hoping for, $1 million that may never appear. And
right.
then what's happening is that in the meantime, you don't live your life.
Hmm.
So again, I'm not advocating that everybody just like chuck it and go, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had to just kind of find my own like balance of like
Hmm.
how do I, because I don't have a house
Okay.
and I don't have a pension. Um, but what I have learned from the investing tutor and some other places is about the importance of cash flow. Like that was one thing. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, so you don't really need the big pile of money is one way to do it. That's
Yep.
the traditional way to do it. And then
Hmm.
fire is really just an accelerated way of doing that same thing. It's still the
Right.
same goal, the big pile of
Yes.
money. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get to the big pile of money,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I'm still going to do what I want to do.
Right.
And so like, oh, cash flow. Okay. So that can be, I get dividends from the
Hmm.
index
Hmm.
fund. And I made myself a goal of like trying to grow that to a certain monthly number,
Hmm.
knowing that eventually my goal is that that dividend number
Yeah.
can, maybe it'll pay my rent, maybe it'll pay half my rent. Even half my rent means I only got to work enough to come up with the other half,
Oh,
right?
say that again. Say that again.
Yeah, if your assets, if it's dividends and maybe,
Yes.
business income, something else, but like if it covers half of
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
expenses, that means you only have to worry about working for the other half.
Right.
All of a sudden, you can work fewer months a year,
Mm-hmm.
which is something I do. I don't do it for dividend reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
um, or you can do part-time, or you can, there are things in your lifestyle that you can adjust,
Right.
but you base it on cash flow and not this big pile of money. So that was
Gotcha.
like a mental shift for
That
me.
that is a huge mental shift, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation because there are a lot of sisters who, in the Exodus Summit, and expats who are potential expats who are curious about, can I really live this lifestyle outside the United States, right?
Hmm.
And until you actually go to another country and see the affordability or lack thereof, because every place is not the same kind of cost of living, right?
Hmm.
You really will never know for yourself. But to be inspired by a message that says, yeah, conventionally you need to have $500,000 or $1 million before you decide that you want to leave the United States is, I believe,
Hmm.
more Kool-Aid.
Well,
Because
it's conventional advice for a conventional life. If you're not going to live a conventional life, then that's not your business.
there you go. Okay. Okay. That is absolutely a golden point right there. You dropped a gem. If
Hmm.
you're not living that conventional lifestyle, if you don't have that mortgage,
Hmm.
and that overhead that the United States keeps you on that gerbil wheel,
Yep.
right? Chasing the bigger, the better, the
Yep.
more, the
Yep.
Joneses, all
Hmm.
of that,
Hmm.
then perhaps you don't need that bucket of money. And I'm a living testimony. I don't have $1 million.
Hmm.
I mean, my goal is to get there, but at
Right.
62, I'm like, okay, so how likely is that at the end of the day? But in the meantime, I love what you said. That's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do and doing it successfully and doing it my way. Everything you said comes back to your first statement is time freedom.
Yes. Yeah. And the more just the more you sit and think about it, like we live in a system where each individual person has to save their own $1 million or $2 million
Uh-huh,
because there's
uh-huh.
no safety net. Like that's insane on its face. Like stop playing, right?
I mean, unless you're in a dual income household, right? And maybe of course, they always say two is better than one. Yes, my financial situation was a lot better when I was part of a marriage, but you know what? I found out what I can do on my own, and that's so empowering. When I found that there are places in the world that I didn't have to give up my dreams
Mm,
because I was no longer married. I no longer had that safety net.
mhm.
Here I am out in these streets at 58 by myself and single income. What can I do that still aligns with my dreams? I don't have to put them on a shelf. And
Yes,
that's where house sitting came in for me. Like, I'm living real good on somebody else, excuse me, somebody else's dime, you know?
yes.
And what you're
More than
saying is
one way to
that
do
you, right, you don't need that $1 million. Now, if that's your comfort level to get
it.
out in
Yes.
the street, then you keep on grinding for it.
Yeah, and it's not. Here's the thing: you don't need the $1 million first before
Mm-hmm.
you go live.
Right,
That's the thing. The
right.
system has everybody pursuing, like blindly pursuing the $1 million to the
Mm-hmm.
detriment of their dreams and
Mm-hmm.
goals, all that other stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need it first. You
Right.
can you can live your life and still kind of go toward it. Like I still
Yes.
so for example, I work as a contractor in tech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I my contract ends in September, and
She
then I'm
works in
gonna.
tech, y'all. For all of us technologically challenged people like myself, the Gallivanting Grandma, I'm like, how you make this work? Okay, I digress. Go ahead. She works in tech.
Yeah. And so when my contract ends, I'm gonna take the last 3 months of the year off and
Yes.
chill and travel and whatever. But during the 9 months that I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
I'm maxing out my, Roth IRA. I'm
Okay.
maxing out my health savings account. because, I talked a minute ago about everybody having to save their own $1 million.
Yes. Yes.
And the biggest reason that is healthcare. And
Uh-huh.
so, again, I picked up things from different people, and an HSA is one of those pieces of information that I picked up. I'm like, oh, okay, I can max that out. If I don't use it for healthcare, then I can just use it as more regular retirement money. So, okay, great. And I believe in having my money in different buckets too. And I
Agreed.
think I talked about that.
1000%. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Diversification. And especially if you're being unconventional, because you don't want all your money locked up in retirement. If you want to, again, spend 6 months out in these international streets, or you want
Right.
to retire early, or you want to do anything untraditional, right?
Right.
Non-traditional. You can't follow traditional, conventional financial advice if you don't want a conventional traditional life. And
There
so
you
I
go.
think that's the struggle that so many people have, because they have it in their heads that I'm supposed to do step 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then how do I get from step 1, 2, and 3 to this dream I have over here?
Right.
And it's like you gotta adjust some of that or let it go,
Right.
and
Right.
figure out a new
You
way.
have to put it in perspective for your life.
Hmm.
Is what I'm hearing. So I want to back up just a little bit because you threw out some, financial terminology, and we don't want to assume that everybody who's going to see this video knows what a Roth IRA is. So break it down.
Okay, well, so as a non-financial person,
Yes.
so a Roth IRA it's a retirement account, but it's one that you control and you contribute to. So it's not through your employer. It is you go to Fidelity, Vanguard, whatever, and you
Right.
open a Roth IRA.
Mhm.
And there's a maximum that you can contribute per year. And if you're over 50, I think it's
More.
$8,000 if you're 50 and
Uh-huh.
older.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you can put that in every year. And then the money that you put in, you can choose what you want to invest in from the universe of investment options,
Yeah.
versus in the 401k where you have to like pick the things that they picked for you and said you can
Mhm.
choose from that menu. And then those things also usually have really high fees.
Yeah.
And then the other important thing about the Roth IRA is that it is after tax money. It's money that so you get your paycheck, they've taken the taxes out and taxed you on that money, and then you take what's left and you put it into a Roth. And
Yeah.
so that money is, so unlike a traditional 401, a traditional IRA,
Uh-huh.
a Roth IRA, you don't pay taxes when you pull that out at
Because it's
retirement.
already been taxed.
You've
It's
already paid your tax.
pre-tax. It's a pre-tax investment. Or
It's a post-tax investment.
right, post-tax.
Yes.
After tax, you've already paid taxes on it.
Yes.
Right. So you're not getting double taxation.
Right. And I got to look up like again, the exact terminology, but I
Mm-hmm.
think let me see. What else do I want to say about it? Oh, if your Roth has been open 5 years or more,
Mm-hmm.
you can withdraw your contributions for any reason. And so that
As
I like,
opposed to,
as opposed to a traditional, well, so 401ks, those have some other rules that we actually can't even really withdraw from a 401k. You can take a loan, and there's all kinds
right,
of like
until
stipulations.
you get to like a certain age. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And then so yeah, so with the Roth, the contributions you can pull out after 5 years for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
The earnings, if you pull it out before age 59 and a half, and by earnings I mean like you put in $5,000,
Right.
it grew in the market to $7,000.
Right.
You can pull out the $5,000 after 5 years for any reason at any age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The 2000 in earnings, if you touch that before age 59 and a half, then that's when penalties come
Right.
into play.
Right. Okay. And then thank you for that
Financial
explanation.
advisor.
Disclaimer, absolutely, because we are all learning along the way, right? So in my introduction I said I meet amazing, incredible sisters along this journey. And one of them is my co-admin for the Sisters Who Sit group. And
Mhm.
that's Money Coach Malika.
Yes.
And so her story is absolutely phenomenal, from
Mhm.
zero to multi-million. And
Yes.
so now she teaches people how to do that and birth those money babies, as she
Money baby.
calls them.
Yes.
Money
Money
babies. So there is a plethora of information out there from sisters who are doing it and doing it successfully. So do your due diligence out there in YouTube land and during your research, and tap into some of these folks who are doing it, because regardless of how you decide it's gonna be done, it has to again fit for your lifestyle
Yeah.
at your stage in life, right? So
Mhm.
at 62, I'm not trying to get an investment I can't touch for 10 years because I'm 62. You know
Right.
what I mean?
And also, I think about like the times that we're living in. If you know that you want to exit the US sooner rather than later, then, maybe you don't want to lock your, money up in something that you can't touch for 10
That you
years.
can't touch, right?
Or maybe you
Liquidity
want to
is very
reallocate.
important. That's
Yeah.
right. You
Yep.
got to have those liquid assets, because I tell anybody, before you get in these international streets, you better have a emergency fund. You,
Absolutely.
you should have a FU fund.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Oh, please.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, so I got laid off last April.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a contractor, tech was going through what tech was going through last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I filed for unemployment, I guess in May.
All right.
I didn't get it until
Mm-hmm.
November.
Ooh, that's a
I was
long
back
time.
at work in a new job by the time they cut me the check
Oh my
for the
God.
unemployment, because there was a clerical error. I had to have a hearing and all this other stuff. But
Uh,
what was I doing in the meantime? Like, I was
uh,
looking for a job,
right.
but I also just told you I was in LA for a month,
Right.
going to the beach.
Right.
and,
Living your
and
life.
yes, but it was my FU fund, my FU money that allowed that to happen. If I was like, oh, I'll just get unemployment and it'll be fine, you can't count on
Mhm.
these people.
You cannot.
You can't.
You got to have that FU fund. You got to have that emergency backup fund. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself very, very short. Um, and you're going to be compromising your initial goal. Your goal was to live a certain way,
Yeah.
stress free, a life of ease. And now you can't be stress free if you're worrying about money. You can't be stress free if you don't know how you're going to get from point A to point B, right?
The FU fund is like, I wish more. So I completely got that from the fire movement.
Yes.
Um, but that's the key. I think that is what gives you the freedom from worry. That
Mm-hmm.
is what gives you the confidence to walk away from a job that's not working,
Ooh,
or tell a manager who asked you to work weekends or take over such and such a job because they left or whatever. That's what allows you to say no, no, thank you.
no, period. Is a
Or
whole
no.
complete sentence.
Yes.
That part, right? So
So it's,
you really are owning your time. You're claiming your freedom
Mhm.
with that FU fund. And so I'm just going to give my example, because I like to be completely transparent when I'm talking about anything. So from my experience, when I took my first sabbatical, which was to Ecuador, and it was a paid sabbatical for 60 days. I
Oh,
had my laptop, I had my laptop, my iPad, and my two cell phones. And so after 60 days, I was like, okay, well, we're already in the pandemic. I work remotely anyway. So, but I'm going back to work day 61. I'm going to be back on the job, was my goal.
mhm.
Well, guess what? I couldn't go back. I just couldn't do it for me. So if I didn't have a FU fund and an emergency fund already in place, I would have been stressed the heck out. But
Mhm.
what I did have was house sitting.
Mhm.
And so when my job said, well, if you can't come back, we can't guarantee you a job. And I said, well, I can't come back, so I guess I don't have a job. I knew I had my financial security blanket, right? And that was a bucket of money. That was 8 grand. And so with that, I chipped away at that $8,000 for almost a year and a half, traveling the world,
And that's another
traveling the
important
world
point.
using house sitting, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I struggle to understand when people say, "Well, I don't have enough money to do it." What is it? Because you start small.
And what is enough?
What is enough?
You
Enough
got to
is
answer
what's
that
enough for
question.
you. That's personal.
Right. And enough for you to do what? Because that $8,000, you were out of the US. That
I
goes
was
a
out the US.
long way.
Oh my goodness, girl, say it again. Like I
That goes
said,
a
a
long
year and a half, I ate off of $8,000. And
That's
so that gave me enough time to regroup, to find out what it was that I wanted to do, what I wanted to do, as opposed to what I had to do, right? Because I was
mm,
going back to a job that stressed me the heck out. If
mm,
had I returned, I would have been undoing the wellness work that I had already started. And I wasn't willing to give that up. For the first
mm,
time in my life, I had prioritized my overall wellness. And I'm like, I can't do this. This doesn't make any sense.
mm,
And you fall back into those paradigms where it's like, okay, well, you can't quit a job until you have another job. How many times have we heard that?
yeah.
Right? But you got
I-
to kind of shut that noise out and do
you do.
what's best for you in that moment. And that FU fund and those emergency funds will help you make a good decision that's not based on money.
Right. Exactly. And those naysayers, all those people are just in their own fear. All the people who are like, oh, you can't. My mom, so I told you I was taking 3 months off. She's like, you don't have as much money as you think you have. Are you
Yes.
sure? Like people
Yes.
are in their own, living in their own, you know, in their own fear and living
Absolutely.
out the programming that we've all gotten. It's
Hmm.
not even about you, really.
It's
It's
not.
about them.
It really is about them. And that's what I say, fear is something that is projected on you a lot of times.
Hmm.
I remember when I first said to my parents, I said, I'm taking a solo trip out of the country. I was celebrating my divorce and I was going for 10 days to Belize. And they were like, yo, you ain't never been by yourself. That was a true fact. I had
Yeah.
been married the majority of my adult life. I had never been out of the country by myself. Now, solo travel in the States, that was always business related. So I wasn't really alone because I was with colleagues, right?
Hmm.
But they were like, you can't do that, da, 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 all the things. And if I had listened, I would have allowed that fear to be projected on me and stopped me dead in my tracks. But
Hmm.
Belize showed me that I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yep.
you got to, my hashtag is faith over fear. You
Yes.
got to put that faith over fear. And that comes to money as well, because a lot of people fear money.
Yeah. And I mean, but I get why, right? It's
Mm-hmm,
been made so scary and it's just been
mm-hmm,
made to be the center of everything and just
mm-hmm.
like all this like scarcity mindset
Yeah.
that, the messaging that we get like every day. So
Yeah.
I get why it's scary to
Mm-hmm,
people.
mm-hmm.
And I think, starting with, good financial coaches, especially like the people in our community, Money Coach Malika, people like that who have been where you are,
Yeah.
who can help you where you are. Because
Yeah.
that's another thing. A lot of these, a lot of the books, a lot of the financial planners,
Mm-hmm.
they start with people who are already up here,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
like that's not always, our community is not always there, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we kind of
Right.
need somebody to bring it down.
Okay. And that's what you do. That's what
Yeah.
you do. You give it to us on a level that has really not been presented as often
Hmm.
as now you've got this big asset, sell it, put a few $100,000 in the bank, and now you can leave, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting from a different vantage point, talking to folks who may not have that. And I think that is vitally important in encouraging people, start where you at.
Start where you are.
and,
Realize that
and,
you're going
and
the wrong
don't be a victim to comparison. That's the thing.
way.
Comparison kills dreams every single day. It kills dreams faster than anything else, faster than fear. If you're comparing your finances to to somebody
Yep.
else's finances based on what you see on social media, girl,
Mhm.
girl, can we speak to that for a second?
Yeah, that's people's. So, I might sound like really evolved and everything now, but like I still have my moments where I see people's, homes and I'm like, oh, that looks so nice.
Mm,
Oh, that looks nice. Or did I
mm,
miss out by not, like I have my moments.
yeah.
Um, but I also know the other end of home ownership, and I'm also watching what's going on right now with people's insurance, either
Yes, those
getting canceled or
HOAs.
getting hiked, the HOA fees, the cost of like everything, and I'm like, oh girl, I'm so glad I don't have those headaches.
Mm,
I just call somebody to come fix
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, sometimes when you do take the unconventional path, you do still like see like it's still there, still in your face. You still
Oh,
see the
sure.
traditional path, and you're
Right.
like, should I be over there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Am I missing out on
Remember?
something? Did I not get the memo?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So comparison is big, but having those moments of am I doing the right thing the right way is so incredibly human, right?
Hmm.
We have to allow ourselves, we have to give ourselves the grace to be in that moment, but then check ourselves like, all right, you doing good. You all right where you at right now.
Hmm. I go back
Yeah.
to I'd see that, and then I go back. I'm like, okay, you know what? Go look at your vision board. What's on there?
What's on your vision
Just
board
some
is
reason to be more.
uniquely your vision. That's
Yeah.
right. What's on your vision board? It's so funny that you say that because I was working in corporate event planning, and they wanted to do this team building exercise, and it was a vision board. So, these are with colleagues. I don't really want to be all like that with
Mm,
y'all and
mm,
everything
mm.
anyway. But so I'm participating in every single picture that I was clipping out and everything. It was yachts and water and beaches and, planes. And they was like, are you trying to tell us something? And I think I really was really trying to tell them something. Subliminally, that's where my mind was like, I ain't going to be here.
Well,
Like,
what was on theirs?
I can't even speak to that. I don't even
Okay.
know. I don't know.
Because I feel like yachts and planes and beaches is what goes on the vision board. So I'm trying to figure out how they
Uh-huh.
didn't have that.
So it got to the point where they were like, D, oh, this looks like a good one for you. And they be cutting out pictures that would fit my vision board. I'm like, see, y'all ain't being true to yourself. I'm being true to me. This
Yeah.
is what I really want my life to look like. And at that point, I was in the middle of, getting a divorce. So I didn't even know how I was going to have this lifestyle. But
Yeah.
that was my vision. And so when you keep your vision front and center, and you
Hmm.
might glance over to the left or glance over to the right, but
Yeah.
remember, your vision is uniquely yours. So work your plan, right?
That's
Work
right.
it where you at. And that's what Money Coach Malika says all the time. You start where you're at. You don't wait until you get to X.
That's
Start
right.
where you are, right?
Yeah. And it took me years, maybe a decade to kind of learn that lesson
Yeah.
of like, stop being upset that you aren't at, whatever.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, what are we working with here?
Mm-hmm.
Where are
Mm-hmm.
we going to get to next?
Right.
And set that goal and get there. And then,
Mm-hmm.
then you see the next one.
Right.
But it's so yeah, there's just a lot of pressure in our society to present ourselves as perfect and to have achieved all these, milestones by a certain
Mm-hmm.
age and
Right.
all this other stuff. And it's like, most of the people who have the milestones are unhappy. They want your life.
Hey,
Like I'd give anything to be a renter and be able to, you know, go to, you know, buy
yeah,
a plane ticket and go off somewhere and not have to deal with, XYZ, right?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
so it's
absolutely,
trade-offs. It's trade-offs
and
to everything.
exactly. And I have been on both sides of the table. Coming up, I did everything very conventionally. Before I was 30, I had built my first home. So I built 3 houses.
Oh wow.
I've been a real estate investor.
Mm,
And then the housing market burst, and you got to make a pivot. But I've been on both sides. I've been the landlord. I didn't like that. There were times when I was on vacation and my tenants would call and it was something that needed our attention. And so vacation was cut short and things of
Mhm.
that nature. So that's something I don't want to ever return to. I don't want to own anything. Like, except if I can't carry it in my carry on in my check bag, I really
Mhm.
don't want it in my life. And that's where I am now because I've spent the majority of my life on the other side of that table. So
Mm.
this freedom and this feeling of being completely untethered is so
Mhm.
refreshing for me. I don't need that home base. I got home. This is my bed and I don't need that at this stage in my life because I've always had it. I understand
Mhm.
it, but
Yeah.
that ain't me right now. It might be me in 2 years. I don't really know.
Right.
I don't really know. But your message is so refreshing and so encouraging because you're saying you don't really need that to start living your dreams.
You don't. You really don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have to do it exactly the way I do it either. This is just a way that I figured out completely by accident, um,
Mm-hmm.
after a layoff and a break, and looking back and saying, okay, that break I just did, I want to do that over again.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I worked only 7 months last year and all the bills are paid. Why do I need to work 12
That
months again?
part.
So, but it's to your point though, it started with the first step. It started with the,
Yes.
let me do this first thing and try
Yes.
this house sitting, and then let me try house sitting away from home, and then
Yes.
it opened up a whole new thing. So, yeah, I want to encourage everybody to kind of explore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Explore your own path. Don't be afraid to blaze your own path.
That.
And figure out the finances that you need for your path. Don't worry
Yes.
about don't worry about what the talking heads are saying you need.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
figure it out for yourself based on your path.
Right, right, right. So, is that, tell me a little bit about your consulting business, because I know that you actually consult with people who are interested in starting where they are or moving out of a 9 to 5 into a contract situation that might give them more time, freedom, and location flexibility. So, talk to that.
Yeah. So, again, something I totally discovered by accident. Before I got laid off, I was like hoping and wishing to become, I was a contractor and was hoping and wishing to become a full-time employee.
Yeah.
And then after the experience that I just talked about, I was like, okay, I don't want that actually, because they're not going to let me take 4 months off, but I
Right.
can give myself 4 months off and still pay the bills. And
Mm.
so, and I'm in the Exodus Summit community, and I'm seeing all the conversations around toxic jobs and people, and even in my personal life, I've got friends on FMLA trying to get it, trying to
Yes.
escape and get out. And I was like, I keep talking to people about contracting. I'm like, well, just be a contractor. This is great. They don't bother me. I work 40 hours a week. Nobody calls me on the weekends.
Yes.
Nobody, like, I do my time. I do my
I
job.
do my time. You sound like you in jail. I do my time.
I do my time. And then they leave me alone.
Yeah.
I watch my colleagues run around and do performance reviews and all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, I guess it's a light week because I don't have, so I see how freeing it has been for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to help other women experience that same freedom
Mm-hmm.
and get the time freedom, right? Because I really
Yes.
do believe that once you have that, it just opens up the possibilities for your life. Then you start thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to you and what happened to me? And so I
Mm-hmm.
want that. And so, yeah, if you go to bit.ly/reset with Celeste,
Uh-huh.
you can book a 1 hour call with me to talk about if contracting is something you're interested in, if you have questions, just want to know, like, how do the benefits work? How do I sign up
Yes.
with the agency? Like, all that kind of stuff. And then,
Right.
as I said earlier, I do, I focus on marketing and digital and communications because that's my field.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like nursing, I probably can't help you figure out
Okay.
contracting for that. But if you are in some kind of like corporate, business office situation, yeah, come check out my page. Let's talk.
Hmm.
And
Okay. All right.
it was
That sounds fantastic. What I heard you say
good.
in a nutshell is no matter what you're trying to do, make sure you don't leave nothing on the table, first of all.
Yeah.
Know what you're entitled to, moving from full time or contract or whatever the case may be. If you're already in the workplace, know your benefits and leave nothing on the table.
Yeah, because you can negotiate and you can negotiate with the
Negotiation is
contractor.
key. Absolutely.
And you can now health insurance is more expensive as a contractor, but you
Hmm.
can also just ask for more money, like just ask for a higher rate to cover the higher health insurance, and then you're
Hmm.
not out any extra money. So yeah, and then I don't have a 401k match currently, but I have as a contractor had a 401k match. So like
Hmm. Hmm.
depending on, it's ways to do it. There's,
Hmm.
you can do some of the traditional stuff as a contractor,
Right.
or you can use it to do something completely non-traditional. You can work 6 months and then go surf. Like, you can make it work for whatever you want it to work for.
Make it work for you. And it is gumbo, right? A little
Mhm.
bit of this, a little bit of that, a dash of that, and then you got what it is that you need to live
Mhm.
the life that you want to live. There's no set recipe. It's not a quarter cup of this and a half a cup of that, you
Mhm.
know? So you really have to be creative and again, leave nothing on the table because what I have learned being on both sides of the employee employer table is that they not, whoever's in your HR department, they're not there for you. They not gonna give you the 411 on, okay, if you state it this way, you probably have a better chance of getting XYZ. They're not gonna tell you what's in your best interest. They are there to protect the interests of the company. So educate
Mhm.
yourself and do your due diligence. So you're not leaving money on the table like with a 401k match. I don't understand how people don't put money into a 401k that matches 5 or 7%.
Yep. It's 100% return on
I
your
mean,
on the 5 and 7%. Yeah. Yeah.
that's somebody else's money. That's a gift. You already doing what you're
Well,
doing for yourself.
Well, some people say like that's part of your compensation package. So if you don't take it, you are, to your point, leaving some money on the table.
Absolutely.
And, and you made me think of something else when you were talking about negotiating a salary.
Hmm.
Um, that FU money that gives you the confidence to know
Yeah.
that you can walk away from a situation that doesn't serve you. That
Hmm.
also emboldens you in negotiations because if they don't meet your price, that you can go do something else. Like you can go look for something else. So, you don't try to avoid being in a situation where you are desperate, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, you want to go into it emboldened and confident in your skills and what you offer and who you are, right? They're lucky to
Exactly.
have you.
They
So,
are lucky to have you. That part.
yeah.
That part. And I
And
think if more of us would embrace that philosophy,
hmm
we would be able to realize more quickly this life of ease that we all are, that's our goal, and be able to move differently. Because know your worth,
yes.
when you know your worth, there's nobody who can tell me anything at this point because I know my worth. And so we have to get to that point of
hmm
not like they're doing you a favor by hiring you or they're doing you a favor by making you full time. Should that be the goal? I spoke to a young woman a couple of weeks ago and she was like, yeah, I just work enough to get to this point so I don't have to work no more that year. And that's
hmm
what you said, like maybe you grind it out for 7 months because you want the rest of the year to yourself. That's a
hmm
goal, you
hmm
know? People trying to survive on 2 and 3 weeks vacation for a year. Girl, I couldn't imagine returning to that
Never,
kind of a lifestyle
never again. Never
because they
again.
will work you until they can't work you anymore. They will ask you to change your vacation time to fit
Mhm.
their needs, right?
Yep.
I've been
Happened
there.
to, happened to a friend, happened to a coworker. This lady told my coworker to come back from Bali early on a Friday.
Girl.
I was just like,
Like, first of all, where they do that at, and who's the person who's going to say yes to that? Because if I'm in Bali, I'm going to be hard pressed to come back. Period.
Yes. Yeah, I got stories. I might do like a separate, I'm thinking about like a separate like work confessions. I have so many
Oh
stories.
my goodness. Well, you know what? You're going to have to add it from the perspective.
Okay.
Seriously, because like I said, I've sat on both sides of the table as an entrepreneur. And
Mhm,
you do put your business first because it's your baby. And so
mhm.
you do ask what I now realize are completely unreasonable requests of people who are in your employ.
Yeah.
What are you really asking people to do? It give a quart of blood so you can make some more money. I've been on both sides of the table, and that doesn't feel good. And so
Yeah.
when you know better, you do better, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we have been brought up, raised, and operate in a capitalistic society. If you are a
Yeah.
U.S. citizen, it's capitalism. It's about
Born
get
and
that
bred
money.
to be workers. We're born and bred to be workers.
Okay, and
We're-
especially people
Mhm.
of color.
Yep.
Black people, you're supposed to work. You're supposed to
Yep.
grind,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
then you get all these messages of what your life is supposed to look like or what your life could look like if you keep working. Don't take that money at 62. Wait till you 70.
Yep.
That's the one that kills me. I'm like, I tell anybody, Uncle Sam gonna run me my check because tomorrow is not promised. But
No.
62 is closer.
Yes.
Next month, 62 is closer than 70 has ever been. Okay. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I know what to do with my money.
And I think
You
more
know?
people are figuring it out, especially post pandemic. I think the pandemic made a lot of people look
Oh,
at the
yes.
whole system and go, what are we doing?
What are we really doing? And you know what else? My granddaughter, she's so wise at almost 9. She said, Grandma, why do they say that the pandemic was good? The pandemic was bad. And she gave me all the reasons why it was bad. And so, I try to flip it for her, the perspective. And I'm like, well, these are the things that happened during the pandemic. Like grandma started traveling and you could see me going different places and all these things because all that happened during the pandemic. But all of that to say that it opened up possibilities. People were laid off,
Yeah.
people couldn't find jobs. And that
Mhm.
was the unfortunate part of it. But the creative engine started churning and
Yep.
people started figuring out you
Mhm.
lied to me. I can work from home.
Mhm.
Like I had a remote job at the time, right?
Mhm.
But they kept telling other people on the same payroll, no, you really need to be in the office. And then
Mhm.
when you couldn't be in the office, the wheels didn't stop turning. So who was lying to who?
Exactly. They figured it out.
Figured
Yep.
it out. No,
Yep.
I don't need to be in the office to be productive. As a matter of fact, I'm more productive. I have a better attitude when I show up. If I'm
Mhm.
working from home and I don't have to worry about childcare, I don't have to worry about this, that, or the third. I don't have to spend money to come into a physical office and look the way you need me to look when
Mhm.
I arrive. So, yeah, some good things came out of the pandemic.
Yes. And I hope people are charging more money or, demanding higher salaries or rates
Yeah,
for going in for the
yeah.
cost of the commute and the coffee and the wardrobe and
All the
like we were
things.
just absorbing all of that and just not, pushing back on it at all.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
it was
just talk about
crazy.
the cost of time. You can't put a price tag on your time.
Yeah.
You know, when I decided that I no longer wanted to be in corporate America, it was really because I'm spending too much daggone time on the road. It stresses me out
Mhm.
driving 45 minutes one way and 45 minutes another. I knew people who lived in completely other states that only went home on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, came back Sunday night to go to work on Monday. And I'm like, are you joking me right now?
Okay, you
They
just made
own
me have a
you.
flashback. I had a manager who lived out of state. I just realized that, and would do like a Monday to Friday, go home to another state, come back. I had completely blocked that out until you said that.
I mean, you talk about asking for a quart of blood. These people
Yeah,
have families, but they're willing to do it because they feel that they have no other choice but to earn this particular way.
right.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So through your coaching, you're saying, let's think about it a little bit differently. Tell me what your goals are, and I'll help you set a strategy that
Hmm.
will get you closer to your goals without killing yourself. Is that what I hear?
Yes, and I mentioned like having multiple friends either on FMLA or trying to get it or going through drama
Mm-hmm.
at work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I am, around that age, as are my friends,
Uh-huh.
where, maybe we aren't as resilient as we used to be.
Right.
So we used to just be able to just power through all this stuff at work.
Uh-huh.
Um, and now, due to it, family pressure, the menopause, brain fog, all this other, like whatever, for whatever the reason,
Right.
we're not in a phase of pushing through and powering through and being resilient.
Right.
I
Right.
feel like this is the time where we should be trying to figure out how to limit time spent
Mm.
at work and limit work stress. This is also when
Yes.
like the health issues are
Yep.
hitting.
Yep.
We're starting to develop something you didn't have before, like all of that.
All of
It's
that.
all kind of happening, it all happens around midlife. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that is the key time, I think, when you need to figure out a different way, another
Yeah.
way, another,
Right.
for your own health. Like,
For your own health, and it's not just the physical health, it's
yeah,
holistic health.
yeah.
It's your emotional and mental health that is at stake. The longer you continue to compromise what you the longer you compromise, the longer you can and will compromise. So I say,
Mhm,
when do you say enough is enough and
mhm.
decide to get off the gerbil wheel? You know,
Yep.
for
Yep, I know.
me, it was
Yeah.
kind of forced, because I felt at 58, I still felt like, oh, I need this job.
Yeah.
And, but a part of me was like, but I need me more than I need that job. So
Mhm.
let's figure out a way to move forward without it. And so when I counsel people, I tell them all the answers are within. Because
Yes.
what you're doing for that job, they see value in it.
Mhm,
Find a way to do it for yourself.
mhm.
Monetize your own intellectual property, your own skill set, because we all have it. We've been out there doing it for somebody else to make money off of us for
Right.
years, decades in some cases. So when
Mhm.
do you start to use your gifts for your life?
And that's another trick of capitalism, right?
Yes.
Is to like tell you don't have any skills, you don't have any value or whatever, but at the same time, like you got to keep working here. Like we still need your labor. Well,
Right.
if I'm worthless
So
and
you're
not
talking out both sides of your mouth.
right, it's like, well, which is it? You trying to put more work on my plate. I must be doing something because you want me to take on more.
Right.
But then also I'm not good at yeah, this the whole thing is crazy.
I mean, and then add the age discrepancy, right? So disparity. It's like, okay, so if you're over 55 and you're looking for a new job, a new place of employment, they're like, well, maybe we need somebody younger, and so they put it in your mind that you're no longer valuable in the workplace, which is
Hmm.
outside of your home, right? So when do we start to kind of step back and say, wait a minute, these are my skills. This is my intelligence.
That's another reason to not rely on the traditional financial advice, because even though all the books and the talking heads are saying work 50 years and then you can do XYZ, there is no guarantee. Like you could hit 50 and they could go, okay, you know what? We're going to bring in all these younger people. Like there's so much stuff that's
Oh my goodness.
outside of your control, that even if you were trying to follow the program, like it still is not going to work for you, because then you get laid off at 50, 55. Then what? Right.
Right.
And all
Right.
you've done is follow the program.
Right.
So yeah, that's like
And that
another.
within itself is depressing. That puts you in a mindset of, well, where is my value? Where does my value really lie? Because they let me go at 50, and
Yeah,
I still know that I have valuable years in front of me, but that makes you question your worth, you
you got to
know?
find an identity outside of work.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Young people have figured it out that work, your place of employment, what you do for income is not you. It is not the
Exactly.
end all be all. It is a means to an end. It is a tool to get where you want, how you want, when you want. It is not life. And
Hmm.
I think that's one of the best things about international travel. The first question that comes out of people's mouths is not, so what do you do?
Right.
Because I can't stand that question.
Hmm.
What do you do?
Hmm.
So your value is automatically attached to that answer
Right. Yep.
because they
Exactly.
they have already put you in a certain financial bracket in their minds. Well, if you say I'm a nurse, then they know they assume you're making between this and that. So maybe that's where you're gonna fit in that whole socioeconomic ladder, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But when you travel internationally, you don't get that question.
Well, so I went to Cuba in May
Okay.
with Desiree Parkman. She was the
Yes,
yoga
oh,
instructor.
Desiree out of
Mhm.
Guatemala. Yes.
Yeah, the yoga instructor from
Uh huh.
last year's Exodus Summit. And so we had some local, Black guides on the ground that were with us every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're asking one of the guys, like, how did you, like we were just asking about like how people get into occupations.
Yes.
They tell you in Cuba what you're going to be. We need lawyers.
Yeah.
We need this. Like, can
Mm.
you imagine your identity
No.
being tied to work when somebody told you,
No.
right?
Right.
It is just a job.
It's just a job. It's just a job. It's just what you do to make income to support yourself. It is not who the heck you are.
Yeah.
You know? It just
And
isn't.
I think being a contractor really is a way to kind of help disassociate yourself
Yeah.
from your identity being the job. If you know
Mm-hmm.
you're only there for 9 months,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you don't take on all the, I don't get into office politics.
That part.
I don't know what those
Get
people are doing. I don't care.
get caught up in their culture and
Yeah.
think that it is beneficial for you to be part of that culture until they decide we don't need you no more. As a contractor, you'd be like, listen, this ain't my baby.
Right. It's very clear going in that this is an
Yes.
exchange of labor for money.
Right.
So I do like that. So if you are a person who has like problems with work-life boundaries,
Yeah.
both from a time perspective and from a like identity perspective, be a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
contractor.
Be a
Be a
contractor. What you say, clear up that muddy water.
contractor.
That's what
Exactly.
I like about house sitting. It's very clear. It's an exchange of accommodations for services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these services are agreed in advance. So, okay, we both agree. Let's move forward. There's no gray area.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah. Free yourself from that mental stress of having to identify with whomever is your employer at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Like I said, this is a full circle moment. Just, chatting with you almost a full year after we first started communicating and see
Mm-hmm.
you launch your YouTube and your business is just I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I told somebody yesterday, I was like, she doesn't know she's my mentor
Oh,
because I'm seeing her steps and I'm like, okay, I'm like a year behind her.
thank you so much. It's all about each one reach one.
Yeah.
Once you figured out that it can be done, I believe that your blessing is not for you alone. It is for someone else. So you pay it forward, and you be transparent with it, and that's what you're doing. Like I don't have a house, I don't have 401k, but guess what, girl? I'm living that life.
Yes. And I would also just add, like, and it's something I'm still working through too, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Um, get over your fear of being seen.
Yes. Yes. I know
Because
that about you. I wasn't going to say it. I'm glad you
yeah,
did.
I have the stuff I'm talking to you about, you know how many years I've been talking to my friends about the stuff,
Yeah.
and I've had some of them say, you should, you should do this, you should start coaching, you should, like, I've heard it for years, but in 2024, I have turned on the camera, I
Yeah.
have set up, I have set up the coaching.
There you
I'm here.
go. There you go, girl. Kudos to you. I'm going to toast to that because that really is personal growth.
Yes, yes.
And really, that's what this journey is all about. I hesitated for a very long time before I did a YouTube channel because I was like, I don't like being in front of the camera. I just don't like it. I don't like talking about me and all the things. And so, it's the baby steps. And the more you flex that faith muscle and you do it, because to me, that's what faith is. It requires action on your part, right?
Mm-hmm.
My word tells me faith without deeds is dead, right? Without work is dead. So you got to put some work behind your faith. You got to put it into motion, into action, so that you can see the manifestation of that faith. So,
You told me, okay, so two things. During our call last year,
uh-huh.
you were like, here's a strategy, blah, blah, blah. But also just say what you want and go get it. Like, just say if what you want is to go house sit in LA and do house sits back to back, then just say that that's what you're doing and manifest it. That's what you told me.
That's what I told you.
And as far as action, so I just rewatched Coach Tish's session from Exodus
Uh-huh.
Summit,
Uh-huh.
where she talked about the action is what fuels the belief. Like, the action comes first, and then the belief or the faith. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so true. That's so
It
true.
is very true. It is
And
very
also, because I'm outside and doing stuff, I know
Yeah.
Coach Tish in real life now because she was in Cuba with us.
Oh my goodness. You see
I
what I'm saying?
know a speaker. I know a speaker in real life.
Girl, you are a speaker in real life. What are you talking about right now? You are a speaker in real life.
You Okay, but you were the one on the summit next week. I got to get ready for that.
Oh yeah,
I got
girl.
to block off my time.
It is all about that side hustle. It's about that FU money and that emergency fund that we talked about earlier on in this broadcast, right? So get your side hustle together. What works for me may not work for you, but I'm excited about the summit because first of all, it's free. So there's no reason you can't register, right? And I'm excited to learn from 14 other people who are doing it 14 other ways than what I'm doing right now. So, listen, when you see me in 6 months, you're going to be like, well, damn, I didn't know Diamond was doing that. Diamond didn't know she was going to do that until she went to that summit and got some new creative juice.
I talked about you yesterday. I said I clicked on this thing because you always share. I've noticed that on the weekly, on Wednesdays we share posts. It's the same people posting their thing. And so I said, oh, let me look at Diamond's thing. Because I always watch and check out what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when I opened that thing and there were white people, I said, oh, I said, she is on the next level.
You are so funny. You are so funny. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. For some reason, I just expected to see like a screen full of Black women. Like, that's, there's a lot of virtual summits in our community. And that's just
yes.
You could knock me off with a feather.
Yes. And the whole thing is, and that's what I say when I post, I'm like, this is about side hustle money. It's not the only color that matters with this summit is green. So, I can learn from anybody if they talking about green. You know what I'm saying? And well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You are affirming because when they first came to me and said, would you like to be a participant? And I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, what am I going to talk about?
What?
Girl, but then it's baby steps on this faith walk, right? So the more you exercise that muscle, the stronger it gets. So yes, I hope you will tune in to what I got to say because it works for me. And I'm going to tune in to 14 other people and find out what's working for them, girl. And like I said before, it's gumbo. It ain't baking the cake. It is not an exact science. Take a little bit of that, a little bit of this, fit it into who you are and where you see yourself going, and make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So if you had one final piece of advice that you
Mm.
would give folks who don't have the big asset, the house that they're going, get the equity out of or sell and get a whole stack of money, the 401k that's been building up for 20 years, what would be your one piece of advice?
Mm, start where you are with what you have. And if I could add something, it would just be to educate yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
study and learn. Because the more you know about money and how to handle it, the less
Mm-hmm.
afraid you're going to become. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just going to help you make bigger and better moves. And it's going to help you take control over the direction of your life. Like once that money fear is gone, it will change the direction of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Diamond.
This has been a joy on so many different levels. Because
You
I didn't
are
know who Reset with Celeste was. And then I went back in my book and I'm like, that's my girl.
yes. And then you were my 100th subscriber. And that was, you were my 100th subscriber, which I can't even believe that I have 100 subscribers.
Yes,
That's
you do.
wild to me.
Yeah.
But yes, here
That's awesomeness.
we
That's awesome.
are.
Next time we talk, you're gonna be all monetized and everything else because that's the goal, right? So
Yes.
y'all follow Reset with Celeste on YouTube, and we are gonna post all of her contact information so you can ask questions and get the information and become as empowered as she is, and she's empowering other women. So I thank you again for being my guest tonight, and
Thank
for all of you. I thank you for joining in, and wherever you are, whatever you're doing in the world, I wish you nothing but peace and blessings. Good night.
Thank you, Diamond. Good night.
Night.